Eric Fedewa is the head of market intelligence for the Eaton Vehicle Company. And Eric, you're a speaker here at the MBS conference. What's the message you're sending out?
Yeah, well, the message primarily is considerations for footprint. So number one, we made our call on the market to really help folks understand from a supplier perspective how we see the North American market kind of playing out through the remainder of this year. And then we spent a significant amount of time looking at the key indicators or market metrics that support that number, which I think in contrast to a lot of other speakers at the event who have prognosticated on the number and made assumptions about what companies really look at, I wanted to really communicate the key market metrics that are important to our book of business. And every supplier is profitable in a different way with a different portfolio because they have a certain capability in the organization, they have a certain strategic plan that they're pursuing, and along with that, we pay attention to different things in the market. And so looking at things like housing starts and really what is driving the lack of housing in the industry, to understand these are supply side issues, looking at employment and where, basically how would we be able to continue to drive kind of the growth that we're seeing in the market longer term, and some of the other key metrics. So for me, that's kind of the pitch for today. And then also looking at the key considerations when companies are determining their footprint and how they want to establish networks of facilities globally rather than just global locations, and how the product portfolio, and kind of coming back to an organization's kind of unique ability or key capabilities, how that plays into the footprint considerations.
And when you say footprint, you're talking about the manufacturing footprint of the company?
Manufacturing footprint, yep.
Very interesting what you said is your background has been as an analyst, as a forecaster.
Yes.
Now you're working at a supplier company, and you talked about the things that really a supplier company look at.
Yes.
How did you find that different coming in from the forecasting side and now trying to figure out where the Eaton Vehicle Company has got to go?
Yeah, so for me the contrast was after spending 20 years in the forecasting industry, coming into actually, and again, I have to kind of have to qualify my discussion, because we were forecasting propulsion systems and then also supply chains, right? And so the scope of our activity was very broad brush of the industry. And we created, we created products, knowledge products, to help suppliers run their business more efficiently. And in many cases, we got a lot of those product ideas from the suppliers themselves, productized the information, and then sold it back to them, which was a great business model, right?
Sure is.
So I thought, well, going into the supply base, I'm sure I have this covered, I'm sure I have it figured out. Completely different perception of the supply base now, and what it takes to actually run a manufacturing operation, and all of the decisions that are made around materials and supply and plants. It's a much more complex environment than I think most people realize, especially when you have such a broad product portfolio as Eaton does, that covers everything from power creation to power transmission and making things more efficient. It's quite a task to have one view of the market. It's a many view of the market type of situation.
Sure it is. How does looking at housing starts or employment play into that?
Okay, so if we take housing starts as an example, housing starts typically correlate very well to light truck sales. And we know that in this market, consumer mix is really changing toward a preference of trucks. And so we look for indicators of what will support that continued mix toward a certain product portfolio. When you look at housing, that correlates very well, but the concerning factor is we have a lack of housing. We're at an all-time low of housing inventory in this market, and looking at the issues is primarily a supply side issue, or what we found is a supply side issue where the housing industry can't get enough labor to build housing. Also, in some geographies, builders have a hard time getting property in order to build housing on. And so the initial concern from a supplier is, well, we have a very tight correlation between trucks and housing. Housing is not doing well, therefore the implication might be that trucks may not do well, when it's actually no issue whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's following the macroeconomic indicators is one task, but translating that into an effect on a book of business is a completely different task altogether.
Very interesting.
It's fascinating.
It really is. And so you've been learning too on the new job.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Real good. With that, we're going to have to wrap this up. But Eric, thanks so much for stopping by and giving us a viewpoint of what you were talking to at the conference.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
The way we drive is transforming with new automated capabilities. Through innovative solutions like radar sensor technologies for increased vehicle safety, Hella is leading the way in shaping the future of mobility.